Okay, good evening, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining us for Cohasset Candidates Night, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Hingham. My name is Nina Steele Welford. I grew up in Cohasset. I'm a proud graduate of the Cohasset Public Schools, and I live here now. And I'm also a member of the League of Women Voters of Hingham. Despite its name, that chapter of the League includes members from Cohasset, Hull, and other surrounding communities. Several members are helping out here tonight as timekeepers, and I'd like to have them just stand up so you see them. We have Hingham's League President, Liza O'Reilly, and Celia Mullen Nolan. Celia also grew up in Cohasset and now lives in Hull. So they'll be timekeepers. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political, this is to remind you, we are a nonpartisan political organization that encourages citizens to take an informed and active role in government. We do not support or oppose political candidates or parties. Instead, we focus on education and advocacy on issues that matter to everyone, and these are issues that the League has studied. The U.S. League, the Mass League, and our local leagues study these issues, take positions, and that is what we stand on. So please check out the League of Women Voters of Hingham's website to talk to us tonight if you're interested in joining the League. We could use some more Cohasset members. One of the League's signature events is the annual Candidates Night, and it's a forum for candidates for local office. This is the 5th League of Women Voters forum we've done here in Cohasset. We're focusing on the select board race, and we also have statements from the 2 candidates for school committee, and this is all because of the way the forum is structured with League rules. But I would like to thank everyone who's committed to running for office in Cohasset this year. Clearly we need citizen participation, and this is a particularly robust year for that, which is great. This forum is being recorded by 143 TV, and it will be available for viewing on YouTube and on 143 TV by soon, since the election is next week. So thanks to 143 TV for producing this and for all the effort that goes into that. So right now I'd like to introduce tonight's moderator, who is accredited as a moderator by the League and is the former president of the Massachusetts League of Women Voters, Elizabeth Foster Nolan. And she'll run the proceedings from here. So thank you. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Nina. Good evening. As Nina said, my name is Elizabeth Foster Nolan. I do not live in Cohasset. I could not do this if I did live in Cohasset. One of the rules that the League of Women Voter has is you cannot moderate a forum where you can vote. So thus, I always have to look for people outside of the town. And this is the ending of my tour of the South Shore. I've done Hingham, I've done Hull, and now Cohasset. And then I move on to the North Shore to Marblehead. So it's a pleasure to be back. And I thank the Hingham League for asking me to moderate this candidate forum. And also, initially what I'll do is I'll just start by explaining the policies and procedures and how this is going to run this evening for the candidates, but also for the audience to understand where we're going with this. So, without further ado, for the contested races, the following rules and procedures apply. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. You will then have 1 minute at the end for your closing statement, and for each question, you will have 2 minutes to answer, with the exception of one question, which is the last question we're going to give you, which we're going to limit it to a minute before your closing statement. I will remind you. So don't worry about that. Opening statements are done in the order that the candidates appear on the ballot. Closing will be opposite of the opening statements. And the order of questions is done basically on a rotating basis, so that everybody's going to get a chance to be first, second, third. Questions are not provided to the candidates prior to the forum. And the questions were developed by the committee, the Cohasset group of the Hingham League of Women Voters. And they sought input from constituents and folks, and then narrowed it down to the 8 questions we're going to have this evening. As Nina said, the timekeepers are in the front row. Just sort of pay attention to them. They'll flash up the signs. They'll let you know when your time is up. Please wrap up when you see the stop. And if you continue speaking, I will just say thank you, and we will move on to the next candidate. Personal references about other candidates are out of order. The forum is being taped. You see the cameras. And as Nina said, it'll be broadcast on 143 TV. And will it be on YouTube, Nina?
Yes.
And on YouTube. So there'll be places for people to watch it. There is no audio or videotaping of the forum, as the recording is the property of the Hingham League of Women Voters. So now, this is for you guys. Basically silence anything you have. Androids, phones, iPads, whatever you have, we just silence them so we don't have to worry about that happening in the middle of a question and interrupting the candidates. And we will not be taking questions from the audience, again, and then we just ask that you respect all of our candidates fairly here. Please remain quiet throughout the forum. We ask that there be no clapping, no cheering, or calling out, with the exception that at the end of the closing statements, you guys can give a lovely round of applause for all of the candidates who have put themselves on the ballot this year. No campaign literature is in here, so we don't have to worry about that. And as Nina said, this is going to start with the statements that I will read from the two school committee candidates, and then we will move on to you guys. So you can relax for a little bit while I read two statements.
Can I ask if the timekeepers could just move over here, since we're also going to be addressing the people on 114 TV, just so that we can see the time in the camera? Okay.
No, actually, you should move now because we're going to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, otherwise we'll be playing musical chairs. Could be entertaining.
The candidate camera is right here. So if you're talking to the camera, it's right
Talk to
there.
the camera then? Okay. My apologies, I just thought it was a little more central.
You guys are settled? Excellent, thank you. We prefer questions to make sure that everybody's feeling comfortable as we do this, so thank you. So, I will read the first statement, and I'm reading it verbatim as it was provided to the league. I changed nothing, I just read in their voice that they have sent. So, dear voters, I am sorry that I could not be here tonight, and I very much appreciate your engagement and interest in this year's town election. My name is Jennifer Lesky, and I am running for re-election to the Cohasset School Committee. I currently serve as the chair of the committee, and it has been an honor and a pleasure to serve the Cohasset community for the past 3 years. My service to the schools of Cohasset began long before my first term on the school committee. I have volunteered as a class parent in Osgood and Deer Hill for many years, and I co-chaired the PSO's Deer Hill Circus. I was on the board of the Cohasset Education Foundation for 6 years, working to fund innovative teaching and learning in our schools. In 2021, I was appointed by the Select Board to the School Facilities Committee, the committee that first began exploring options for the renovation and rebuilding of the Cohasset Middle High School building. I have sat on the hiring committee for the Osgood Principal, Middle School Principal, Director of Learning Services, and most recently on the Assistant Superintendent Hiring Committee. I also represented the school committee on the Strategic Planning Committee. These experiences not only speak to my commitment to education in Cohasset, but also to my willingness to consistently devote time and energy into these endeavors. I believe in the power of public education and its role in protecting and promoting a just and civil society. As a school committee member, students come first in every decision that I make. Fantastic teachers are the cornerstone of our district, and it is important to the school committee member that we work to hire and retain our faculty. And I'm down to 30 seconds, so I'm going to move ahead so that we get most of her statement in. Seeing through the multiple lenses, I am acutely aware of the delicate balance that needs to be struck between competing needs and available time and funding. While the school budget and school funding are critical, it is also important that the initiatives in the strategic plan continue to move forward at the same time the essential work on the budget is being done. I believe in cooperation and collaboration on the school committee, within the district, across town boards, and with town management. Working together and harnessing our collective efforts will be critical as we explore the tax override for fiscal year 27. Thank you very much. The next statement is, good evening, Cohasset. Thank you to the League of Women Voters of Hingham for organizing this important forum to hear from the candidates. I'm Victoria Latanzi, and this community isn't just where I live, it's part of my family's history. My grandfather taught math, coached football, and served as principal at Cohasset High starting in the 1950s. My mother continues that legacy as a CHS math teacher and field hockey coach. Cohasset shaped who I am, and since moving here in 2015 with my husband Will, it's been the place we're proud to raise our 3 daughters. As a Girl Scout leader, townwide Girl Scout Service Unit Coordinator, and member of the School Finance Director Search Committee, I've rolled up my sleeves for our kids and community. Professionally, I operationalize and manage clinical trials at a biotech company called eGenesis and teach ethics at Boston University. My work demands collaboration, careful planning, and tough yet transparent decision-making. The very qualities our school committee needs now. I'm running to bring a steady, practical, and inclusive voice to the table, one focused on what truly matters: student outcomes, teacher and staff support, clear communication, and long-range planning. Our schools are Cohasset's greatest asset, but sustaining excellence takes partnership. As we face challenges like the fiscal year budget gap, we must start conversations early, weigh trade-offs together, and communicate openly with families and taxpayers alike. I believe open dialogue, not closed doors, or decision-making in silos is how we move forward. That's why forums like this matter so much. They give residents a chance to hear directly from those who seek to represent them. I'm here tonight because I believe your voice belongs at the center of every discussion about our schools. My commitment is simple: to be a bridge builder between boards, educators, and families, and to support overrides only when backed by clear plans that earn residents' trust. Fellow skippers, our schools are both our legacy and our future. Together we can honor our tradition of excellence while embracing the thoughtful evolution our students deserve. Thank you. So, we will now move on to the question and answer portion of the evening for our candidates for select board. So, as was discussed earlier, there are 2 races. So they have been split into the races here. That's why we have 2 here, and we have 3 folks over there. So, without further ado, I just want to let you know that with the 5 candidates, there are 2 seats open for the 3-year term, and 1 seat open for the 2-year term, and that was to fill a seat that was vacated last year in town. Candidates for the 3-year term are Ellen Marr, Will Ashton, and there is also a write-in candidate, Corey Evans, who is running for the 3-year term. However, because of the forum rules that were adopted by the Hingham League of Women Voters, the write-in candidate is not participating with us this evening. The candidates for the 2-year term on the select board are Carol Bestick, Greg Watts on the end, sorry, and Jennifer Chu. So, and again, we will be rotating who gets the questions. But we will start with opening statements. So just so you guys know, it's going to be a little different. We are going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll rotate. If you think I screwed up the rotation, call me out. I've done it before. I'm not, it happens. Trust me. So I am not offended if you say, oh, you missed me. So with that, I would ask to begin with your opening statement for 1 minute with Ms. Marr. Excuse me, 2 minutes. Sorry. See, I told you.
I think I only wrote 1 minute's worth, but I'll try to keep it brief. Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you to the Hingham League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. My name is Ellen Marr. I live at 63 Old Pasture Road in Cohasset. And I've been in town since 1966. And I'm actually quite proud of it. Someone tried to make me feel bad about being almost a lifer. And I kind of said, well, I wonder why that is. But I'm very proud to have been not born, but raised here in Cohasset. Myself, my 4 siblings, my husband, his 4 siblings, and our 2 children all went through Cohasset Public Schools. and I'm very proud of that fact. I'm running for re-election, as you know. I'm about to complete 10 years in public service. I served 6 years on the Cohasset School Committee, 1 year on the Advisory Committee, and I'm completing my 3rd year of my first term on the Cohasset Select Board. And before that, I spent over 10 years supporting and leading youth, athletic, and high school booster groups. I'm running for office for 2 reasons. First is to continue the initiatives we have started, namely the rehabilitation of town halls, supporting our public safety projects, sustaining our roads and sidewalks, paving plans, supporting our school building projects, and those are just a few of the initiatives. Secondly, it's imperative we look at our revenue and expenses across all departments. I think we can do a more timely job tracking and adjusting actuals to budget and planning budget to actuals. But that's the challenge, considering we start the process early in the season. In the fall we start. So as we find ourselves looking forward towards fall of '28 and beyond, with costs exceeding revenues, we need a thoughtful, strategic financial plan for Cohasset, inclusive of the existing 10-year capital plan. That's pressure. I see it out of the corner of my eye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Ashton.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you to League of Women Voters for always putting on this great event, and to everyone that's here and anybody that watches in the future. I'm Will Ashton. My family and I are proud to call Cohasset home for the last 11 years. My wife Victoria and I live in Beechwood with our 3 daughters. Professionally, I work in commercial real estate, developing laboratory buildings in Boston. Locally, I'm grateful to serve on the Conservation Commission, the Open Space and Recreation Committee, the Public Safety Facilities Committee, and the St. Stephen's Vestry. I also helped to organize the Cohasset Girl Scout Grand Prix, and I serve as a major in the Army Reserve. I'm running for select board because I care deeply about how our town plans for the future while continuing to deliver the high-quality services that residents rely on every day. Cohasset is in a strong position. My goal is to build on that strength with thoughtful, steady improvements to how we plan, budget, and communicate. I believe we can continue to refine our approach in a few key areas. First, using clear data-driven budgeting to ensure we're making informed decisions and maintaining long-term financial stability. Second is strengthening our capital planning so that projects like our schools, public safety facilities, and infrastructure are carefully sequenced, well understood, and responsibly managed. Third is improving how we communicate so that residents can follow priorities, understand trade-offs, and stay engaged. My experience in development, finance, and leadership has taught me the value of preparation, transparency, and follow-through. As a parent with kids in our schools, I'm also focused on making sure Cohasset continues to support strong educational outcomes as part of a balanced, sustainable town budget. If elected, I'll focus on making a thoughtful, incremental improvements that help our town operate with clarity, consistency, and confidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bestick.
Hello, my name is Carol Bestick, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for running this. My husband and I moved to this town in 1970. He moved his business down here because he liked the area. The area was like it was when he was a kid growing up in Braintree, and that's why we came here. We had 3 kids, that all of them went to the Cohasset school system, and we had 6 grandchildren who are in the Cohasset school system. The last 2 go out in 2 years. I am currently serving on the Historic Commission, the Cohasset Cultural Council, the Community Preservation Committee, and the Friends of the Cohasset Elders. I attend select board meetings every time they have one in person in this room. And I am very committed to learning what's going on and making sure that the town moves forward. I'm running for the select board because I want to help the board be more open, transparent with the community, and also I noticed that we have no member on this board that is actually working to help the seniors, and that's what I want to do, is help the seniors. And I want to work with all the stakeholders in town to ensure that the town is financially responsible and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chu.
Thank you very much to the League of Women Voters, and also this is outside of a school assembly, the most people I've seen in one room, so thank you guys for all showing up here tonight. My name is Jennifer Chu, and I purchased my house here in Cohasset the day after I found out I was pregnant with my son Jacob. So that was a little nerve-wracking. But I grew up in Massachusetts for most of my life. I lived overseas in Madrid, Spain for a while, came back and had always dreamed of moving to this town. Drove through this town, biked through this town, walked through this town my entire life and fell in love with it more every time that I came. And so I was very grateful to have the opportunity to come here in 2015. And I've been very, very grateful for the relationships and the community that has been such a support system and that I've been able to support over the past almost 11 years. I'm running because I got engaged in the community very recently, about 9 months ago. And what occurred to me is that there was a lot of opportunity for people to feel more welcomed into the conversation and to really make some difference. My experience, I am 15 years, coming on 15 years with Granite Telecommunications. I've been in leadership roles for them, and I currently serve as Senior Federal Account Executive, selling into the federal government. I have an incredible experience negotiating contracts, making sure that process and procedure are followed, and building leadership within our organizations and across the organizations we work with. And I think I can bring all of that to bear to provide some good basis for this community and moving forward with our projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watts.
Good evening, everybody. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this fantastic event, and I want to thank everybody who came here in person, as well as the folks who will watch online later. I think supporting your civic duty is one of the most important things we can do as a community, and I appreciate everything that everybody does to support this wonderful town. My name is Greg Watts. I'm here tonight because I believe that we share a deep responsibility to build a town that works for everyone, not just for today, but for generations to come. My family and I are deeply rooted here in Cohasset. I'm married into a third-generation community member, part of the Anderson Donahue clan, and proudly am raising 3 young children here who are currently going through the Cohasset school system. Like many of you, my life is measured in school events, community events, whether I'm coaching our Little League teams or cheering on my sister-in-law at the Cohasset Road Race or taking a stroll through the farmer's market, I see firsthand almost every day the strength of our community and the bright future that we're building for our children. My professional life has been dedicated to the sort of thoughtful and forward-looking decision-making that our town needs. I have a master's degree in urban and regional policy and planning, and I've spent my entire career working in healthcare policy and government relations. I currently run hospital finance and policy for the Hospital Association of Rhode Island. In my roles, I navigate complex systems and manage resources to ensure critical services are delivered both effectively and importantly, efficiently. I've learned that good policy isn't just about running numbers, but of balancing our policy ideals and the fiscal reality that we face. My priorities here for Cohasset are very clear. First, I am a fierce advocate of our public school system. They are the backbone of this town, and I will fight to ensure that they are fully funded and prepared to meet the challenge of the future. However, I do know that investing in our schools and services must go hand in hand with being a responsible steward of our tax dollars. Secondly, I believe in a Cohasset that works for everyone. We need to balance growth, access and accountability, and maintaining the quintessential essence that makes Cohasset unique and the greatest place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the question portion. And I'm going to start this with, just so people in the audience understand, I'm going to start with the mission for the Select Board. And the mission of the Cohasset Select Board is to protect, maintain, and enhance our dynamic community, historical heritage, and coastal environment by providing thoughtful leadership and fostering citizen engagement. Our first question, and we will start here with Mr. Ashton. As a member of the Select Board, you have your personal views, yet you also represent the townspeople of Cohasset. Who do you listen to in town? How do you get your input? And how can you ensure that people with differing experiences are heard?
Absolutely. Great question. I would say that you have to make sure that you get a demographic mix of all the groups in town, whether that's parents, seniors, people whose kids have graduated. Those are generally the biggest three groups in town. So I personally reach out to my network through the organizations and committees that I've been on to get that wide range of voices heard. And yeah, I would say that's it.
Great, thank you. Ms. Marr?
So being involved, you get to meet a lot of people, and I've been privileged to meet a lot of people I never would have met had I not been on school committee, advisory, and capital budget. And we come from all walks of life. Where my children are older, I've served with people on the school committee who had children in the district, or in school. And they're still my friends today, even though we don't have that intersectionality of seeing each other on the Little League field or at the football field or at events like that. And we still stay in touch, and I'm blessed. And so I reach out to them and I say, what's going on? Because some of their kids are still in school, some of their kids are now in college. How are they doing in college? Did they get a good foundation? And then I have my network of social is quite small because I have no time, but there are a lot of snowbirds. So how do you view Cohasset as a snowbird? As perhaps your primary residence is in Florida, and but you still have a home, you still pay taxes, and you're still part of the community here. So that's how I reach out to people. People email me, I respond. People call me, I respond. I have a quite extensive text. I can do that pretty well. And sometimes during the day I can talk during work, but that's how I reach out and hear from people. And obviously people who come to select board meetings, they make public comment or they reach out after a meeting and respond in kind. And you'll learn a lot by listening is what I found. Ask questions and listen.
Thank you. Mr. Watts?
Thank you for the question. To me, this really reaches to the core of what it means to be in representative government and serving the town, right? Our role as select board members, elected, is to make sure that we do our best job of representing the town, the folks in them, and the ideas they can bring to bear. The town of Cohasset is filled with really impressive people from all walks of life, and they each deserve to have their voice heard. So I'm a big believer in kind of meeting people where they are. I think in general, in my experience as a government relations professional, usually where local and state governments fail is not getting out into the community sufficiently enough and reaching people where they are. We have our core groups of networks, people we knew, we grow up with. We meet the people we see come to town hall, but it's important that the select board members also go out into the community and find folks to talk to. There's a lot of people here with a lot of great ideas, and it's important to me, whether it be at Little League games, Cohasset road races, farmers markets, whatever it may be, to show up in the community, be present, and to reach out proactively to find the common ground and have the real conversations with folks wherever they are. It can be hard for folks to make it to town meetings and special forums, so I think it's really important that we reach out proactively into the community to really both educate ourselves and educate the folks of the town so they can best understand the decisions the board may be making, why they're making them, and make folks as comfortable as possible. We're never going to get full agreement with every issue, but it's important that every voice is heard. So it's on the select board themselves to get out in the community and have those conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bestick?
First off, it's the people that I associate with, and I have a big network of people because my husband's company is still running and I'm still involved in it, so I need them all the time. The other place I get a lot of information from is right here in this building. People come up to me, what's going on? What do you know? Can you tell us what's going on? And can you keep us informed? And I ask them, well, can you keep me informed as to what you are looking for? The other place is when I go shopping in supermarkets. People will come up to me all the time. Carol, what's going on? What are we doing? What do we need to do? And I say, okay, tell me what you want, and I will get in touch with the people that need to be gotten in touch with. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chu?
Thank you again. So for me, this is a really simple question. it's not only sitting in front of somebody and letting them speak, it's about actually hearing them and understanding their position. And the easiest way, from my perspective, that we can improve that process here in Cohasset is we can be more forward in our communication on social media, not exclusively on social media, but that needs to be, there's a lot of engagement on our town site, as I'm sure some of you have seen. And so that needs to be at the forefront. We need to be placing up communication up on walls in places like the senior center or town hall. So if there's important meetings or issues that are being discussed, that people know about them up front and they're not trying to catch up as we are down the road with the process. And I can commit to every person in here today and everybody that's watching on TV and everybody that approaches me after the election, that if you come and you have questions and you want to talk to me, I will give any and all of you my cell phone number, and I'm committed to sitting down and listening and learning from all of you, because many people, my 10 years doesn't cast a shadow there, so I can learn a lot from all of you, and I'm committed to doing that.
Thank you. Question 2, and I want to just let you all know, if you need me to give you the question again, that's fine, just ask me and I will do that. So we will start with you, Ms. Marr, for question 2. The current select board just hired Cohasset's new town manager from a group of highly qualified candidates. Congratulations to Michelle Leary. The town manager and select board work hand in hand to set and implement the policies that govern the town. How do your roles intersect, and how would you, as a board member, support the work of the town manager?
Good question. So at the beginning of the fiscal year, which is July 1st, the select board goes through a couple of meetings setting goals. And it's very important that the goals that the select board sets are challenging, achievable, and in concert with what the town manager has as goals as well. Because without the town manager, a lot of the select board goals can't get accomplished. It's, in order to accomplish those goals, it's open communication. Typically, it goes through, the chair, and it goes at the meeting level where you have candid conversations on the agenda items about next steps or what the status is on certain projects. It's a vitally important role, and it's a partnership. If you look at, the select board is essentially policy making, and the town manager is the operational end, much like in the school department. The school committee is policy, and the superintendent executes operational plans to fulfill those policies. So communication is very important. Candor is very important. We can set goals, and if the town manager says, we don't have the bandwidth for all of that, let's stage them out over a couple of years, that's important too, because you don't want to overwhelm town staff. We have a finite number of people working in town to accomplish the goals, and you have to rely on the town manager to say, okay, 1 through 3 we can do, 4 and 5 might be tough. So that's how I see working with the town manager, being on the select board.
Thank you. Mr. Ashton.
Sure, thank you. For me, this is kind of reminiscent of when I was in the Army and the platoon leader-platoon sergeant relationship, where the platoon leader is like the select board, where you have a plan, a vision, and an end state, and you turn that over to your platoon sergeant, the town manager in this case, to get everything done. You get out of their way, you provide them clarity, and you supervise and refine and check in as they execute your vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chu.
So I think that it's congratulations to Ms. Leary on a very quick appointment to her role. In my opinion, we're going to have to, as a board, because we have so many priorities, we're going to have to start really early formulating what those goals are. And that's going back to your first question, understanding from the community what's important to them and helping use their vision for what this town looks like to shape the goals of the board in collaboration with the town manager. So my goal is to work very openly with the town leadership to understand where they can be more efficient and do more with the resources that we have available, or in some cases, we're gonna have to do more with less resources than we currently have available based on the upcoming budget. So looking towards that, looking towards where we can further support our community with the resources that we have, and making sure again that we're keeping the community engaged and that our meetings are conversations and they're not people talking at us or us talking at people.
Thank you. Mr. Watts?
Yes, thanks again for the question. I think it's an important role the town manager serves, and it's a really important relationship that the select board must have with that town manager. You know, as Ellen and Will had said, you know, it's a really two sides of the same coin. The select board is there to put up a policy, communicate with the public, and land on a good ground, and town manager is there to operationalize. You know, I think it's important that you have a really strong working relationship. You know, it's tough. You think to roles you've had professionally, if you're not aligned with the folks in your C-suite as you try to move forward, and you don't feel comfortable talking with that person, it's a really difficult thing to navigate. So I think having the town manager know that the select board has their back, that we're there to work together, I think will help drive the town forward in a really meaningful way. You know, I'm proud of the work the select board and previous town manager had done, and if elected, I really look forward to working hand in hand with Michelle as we work to make Cohasset the best it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bestick?
I have worked with Michelle on other things since I got here, and she's very open to what goes on, and she likes the fact that you can go out into the public, ask them what they want. She'll come back and work with the board to try and get those things through, and I think that's what has to happen. The town has to come to somebody on the board or to Michelle saying, this is what we want, this is how we want to do it, and work with her to get it through.
Thank you. We'll now move on to question 3, starting with you, Mr. Ashton. There is a growing sense in town that we are splitting into factions over issues, that we are losing the sense of goodwill and desire for mutual understanding that holds a small town together. Do you share this view, and what would you do to address this issue?
Sure. I think that it's more evident now when there's more stress on the system. For example, some of the budget problems with both the school and capital projects that we've seen. So I think that brings it more to the surface, makes it more evident to people every day. Part of what I've been campaigning on is turning down that volume of, being respectful to everyone, trying to always engage, even if you disagree, in a respectful way with everyone, because disagreement is okay and encouraged in a democracy, but shouting people down and being disrespectful is just unkind. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Marr?
Can I say ditto? No. So I agree with Mr. Ashton in many respects, and through respectful, healthy dialogue and sharing of perspectives and experiences to shape and inform decisions going forward is the way a community should work. It's not always going to work perfectly that way, but that would be, the path forward, because we are filled with challenges in Cohasset for FY28 and beyond, from a financial perspective, from a capital outlay perspective, from the infrastructure needs that we have, and only through thoughtful, respectful, questioning dialogue amongst each other can we come to the right answer for all of us. And I think listening and asking questions is the most important thing, whether it's of each other or of community members. We have to hear what people are saying. We really have to hear it, not just give it lip service. And sometimes in a select board meeting, it's very difficult. We think select board meetings are public meetings. They're meetings held in public to conduct the business of the select board. And over the last 3 years, the select board has done an awful lot of forums that are informal, that are Q&A based, so that we can hear people on a variety of issues, whether it was the road and sidewalk stabilization fund, the school stabilization fund, the RTF, the public safety facility. That's where you can really have those exchanges of ideas and have the questions and answers and talk amongst each other. And that's how we can get through the next fiscal storm that we're facing.
Thank you. Ms. Bestick?
Well, I think what we have to do is listen to the people. When the people ask you questions, see what you can find out for them and get answers back to them. I know they come to me all the time because they say, Carol, I know I can trust you to go and find the answers and make sure that we get them. And my primary thing is getting seniors, because seniors are getting felt that they're being left by the wayside. That everything else in town, but not them. And I'm trying to see what we can do about helping them more and give them more things.
Thank you. Ms. Chu?
So my idea of how we take down the temperature in this town is to invite as many people as possible into every conversation at the start of the conversation. We want to make sure that people understand that we are listening to that. We're hearing what they're saying. We may not always be able to deliver on the things that are the priorities for them at the moment that they are looking for them, but they are heard, and we will figure out a way and a path to get there if it makes sense for the community at large. So having as much engagement as possible, having people, whether it's show up to the meetings or just engaging with select board members frequently about what they're feeling. I think, again, if people feel they can reach out to their select board members and that they're gonna have a constructive conversation, then that immediately takes the temperature down. People are not so upset about getting precisely what they want or what they don't want. They get upset because they think that misinformation is being provided, or they feel that they're not being heard and listened to when they're engaged with. So you would certainly, if I'm on the select board, you will have my commitment that I will listen and engage. I can't promise I'll get everything that you want, but I'll listen and engage, and I'll do my best to do things that are going to really move this town forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watts?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, you do see it, importantly and interestingly, you see it more online, as you do in all facets of our life. Temperature tends to get turned up online, which going back to what I said earlier is why I think it's important that you go out there and find people where they are and have the conversation with folks, because I think it's important that we remind ourselves and we remind each other that we come to all of this, the folks who are engaged in this issue, from a shared love of our town, a general shared belief in trying to make it better. So I push back on any notions of ill will or malfeasance, but rather we require a little bit of patience and a little bit of grace as we work through the issues that I know are difficult and top of mind for folks. Maybe this is the data 3 in me, but patience to me is key. We have to understand and be patient with each other when we have our conversations. When you're frustrated, when you're worked up, you're not going to hear each other clearly, you're not going to say the things you mean, and when the future of our town, the future of our kids, the future of our seniors is at stake, I think it's of utmost importance that we hold each other accountable to the standard of patience and grace with each other. I think when we're able to accomplish that and meet each other where we are, we can have meaningful dialogues and come to the best solutions for our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marr? Related to the previous question, there is a sense that people are acting with a new level of contentiousness and disrespect towards people with opposing points of view. Many believe that the town's leaders should model good behavior on this matter. Will you hold yourself to a standard of personal interaction that is honest yet civil?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ashton?
Yes, I think especially as elected or appointed figures in town, you need to hold yourself to a higher standard, and I think that I do that even without having been elected, but having been appointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watts?
Absolutely. As a government relations expert and professional, I've lobbied in Massachusetts and in Florida and Texas and in Arizona and in Arkansas, and as you can imagine, the political views across that demographic are not aligned. But it's important that you're able to have the conversation with folks no matter where they come from, and do it in a civil manner where you'll never get your point across, you'll never convince anybody of anything if you can't, one, start with yourself saying, I'm going to present the best version of me that I can, and that helps build a two-way street. So I'd say it's pivotal. You know, if we can't be who we're urging other folks to be, then we don't deserve to be sitting here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bestick.
I think I already do that because when I talk to people, I try and be very pleasant with them. I try and listen to what they have to say, and I try and encourage them. And if they have questions, I try and say, okay, let's see what this needs to happen, and let's be, and I don't think I've ever raised my voice to anybody, except my kids. And I think if anybody asks you, everyone would say, if you have a problem or you have a question, go see Carol, because Carol has the answer. And I always say, okay, you're putting a lot on my shoulders, but I try and help.
Thank you. Ms. Chu.
Absolutely. I think, Greg, you said it really well. You're coming in with a lot of different ideas, but at the end of the day, we all moved to Cohasset for the same reason. We love the sense of community. We love the reputation of the schools and the education that is afforded or has been afforded or will be afforded to our children. I don't know much about where the seniors are with feeling neglected in town. I'm open to that, but I do think that we have an incredible building here and incredible programming here, and I say that from talking to neighbors and other seniors in the community, that there is a lot of care, from my experience, whether it be something formal, like the Willcutt Commons, or whether it just be checking on your neighbors during a snowstorm. And so, if we're just bringing that idea into the conversation, that we're all here for the same reason, and we start with that, I think it makes the conversation a lot easier.
Thank you. Note to our timekeepers, I'm going to give them 3 minutes on this question, given the next question, given the topic. Let's talk budget. Affordability is a major concern, not only for working parents and any young adults looking to move into town, but also for retired seniors. Talk of an override is already stirring anxiety among long-term residents who can barely handle taxes, insurance, and fees that continue to rise. Yet we are all proud of our excellent school system and recognize the value that adds to all of us in Cohasset. And we know we have major town infrastructure needs to address. How do we balance these needs and still serve everyone in Cohasset, children, parents, young adults, and seniors? We will start with Mr. Ashton. Sorry, my bad. Specifically, would you be in favor of an override to close the budget gap? And if so, how would you explain the need for an override to those who oppose you about an override? If you are opposed yourself, how would you propose to balance the budget without an override?
Thank you for the question. To come back to one of your questions that you asked earlier about differentiating your own views from the entire town, overrides and debt exclusions are one of the biggest areas because no matter what the select board or any other committee says, it ultimately has to go to the town for a vote. So while I do think that we do need an override both for the school and the town side of the budgets, the budget overall, I know that one of the most important things is having an option B and option C that maintains some level of service that everybody can live with. You can't go into an override vote with skies falling, one option, vote for this, or the town is going to crater. We have to have options for the public for that, or debt exclusions for capital projects. There should be something that is a backup plan if our initial plan doesn't work. To go back to, I love my Army analogies, but they say your plan doesn't survive the first contact, so you always have to have a backup plan, and that's what I would focus on when talking to people about an override.
Thank you. Ms. Marr.
Thank you. It's a complex question with complex answers, and I think that we have to talk about it in the context of the town and what's important, what could be important to some people, or improving our roads and our sidewalks, and how do we support and fund that, and how do we support our schools. I think schools are important to everybody. And how do we keep our infrastructure running, our wastewater treatment plant, our water plant, our public safety facilities, our schools? We're very excited that we've been accepted into the MSBA school building core program for a middle high school. And how do we take all of those and balance them out? It's going to be a lot of give and take, a lot of collaboration. We talked on February 10th when we had a joint meeting about forming a task force this summer to sit down and look at how do we do this in an affordable way. And because I don't want to work forever, but I'm willing to pay taxes, you know, to live here and to get the goods and services. And we are one town and we are one budget. We're not separated. We're not public safety over here and public education over here and public services in the middle. We're one town, one budget. And we have to come to a common solution, a long-range solution. So we're not every year coming back with another override, another tax increase. How do we manage that in a fiscally responsible way, strategically, looking forward, which is tough. I mean, who knows where tariffs are going to be come July 24th? And what's going to happen to the cost of goods and services coming into the United States. I think about it every working minute because that's what I do for a living. So how is it going to impact construction costs? How is it going to, it's already impacted fuel costs and transportation costs. So we don't have a crystal ball, but we can use everything that we can get our hands on and sit at a round table, not a rectangle, but at a round table together and talk about these ideas and where are our priorities over the next 5 and 10 years, and come to consensus with a plan that we can support. And to Mr. Ashton's point, there should be a plan B, okay? And it's not always easy to come up with a plan B because we're talking about people's lives, people's livelihoods, services we provide to people in town. But we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to look at that. And it's not easy, but that's okay. But we have to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chu.
All right, wonderful, thank you. So, I don't have all the answers to this question because I don't have the details of the budget and the way that the current select board members do. And a big priority for me is making sure that we're delivering the budget books to the community like we used to do when I moved here to town, and that we do it in a timely manner so that we can all see exactly how our funds are going to be spent. So that is going to be critical. Michelle Leary, it seems like she has done a really good job at finding ways to reduce costs and to take some things out of the budget that maybe were extraneous over the past several months. So I have to commend her for that. We have a budget shortfall and had to make some cuts, but at the same time, not as many as we thought we were going to have to do. I did mention at the start and in my introduction that my expertise is in selling into large corporations and now into the federal government. So I understand the procurement process very well. And to me, this is going to be a critical part of making sure that we're being fiscally responsible. The town, without a doubt, is following the letter of the law in terms of what they're doing. But at this juncture, given various examples that I've seen so far, we are not actually acting in the best interest of the citizens. So going with a state-approved contractor, because we can, with a single quote, or sometimes just a single invoice, is not in our best interest. If we want to cut costs, we need to breed competition. We need to have a clearly defined scope of work so that we can hold our vendors accountable very easily and without risk and a lot of legal ramifications in the event that there are issues with the work that we contract out. Additionally, we need to get community buy-in before we start planning projects. What I've surmised over the past several years is that we plan projects over and over and over. And something that might cost a couple $100,000 or $500,000 ends up costing us 2 or 3 or 4 because we keep planning without listening to what the community is actually going to approve. So we need to get that engagement and buy-in before we ever stick a shovel in the ground and before we ever pay architects or contractors or other people to help us figure out and tell us what we need without community buy-in. Also, and I can't say this definitively, but affordability is a big issue, and we may need an override. But maybe we look at an override that also takes into account a discount for seniors that are no longer working, so that they can maintain their homes in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Watts.
You know, thanks for the question. You framed it in an interesting way of either supporting an override or supporting balancing the budget, and my answer is yes and yes. You know, I think it's important, we can't do one without the other. To me, my clearest and biggest priority is making sure our future generations of folks, kids who come through Cohasset, have access to the same quality education that a lot of our kids, your kids, already went through at these schools. So in that regard, I would support an override if it's necessary in order to fund our schools. But at the same time, I think we need to look deeply and carefully at the books and make sure that we are spending money appropriately in areas that it's appropriate. And I've spent the last 15 years of my life working with state and federal budgets as a professional. I know what these things look like. I know what it takes to find gaps where we can fill things in and find things that don't really fit that needs to be taken out. But for me, it's a yes to both, really. And I agree with Ms. Chu here. You know, the engagement on the budget. A budget in policy world and in grad school, you learn that policy is a statement of your ideals. And I can't agree more with that. And I think we need to make sure that our budget is meeting the ideals that we all put forward for our town. You know, and we really have to meet the resource need of the current day. You know, the reality is inflation over the last 15 years has gone haywire, but the state of Massachusetts requires that property taxes only increase at 2.5%. There's a financial, you know, lack of alignment there between those two things, and we have to recognize, you know, the reality of it. Property tax rates in Cohasset have actually had to decrease over the last few years because the assessed value has grown faster than the 2.5% we're allowed to grow at by state law. You know, but you know, supplies at the schools aren't capped at 2.5%. You know, energy costs certainly aren't capped at 2.5%. So we have to look at the lived reality of the world we're living in and meet it where it is and have the honest conversation of, you know, this town has been blessed financially over the last 30 years in the growth that we've seen. And so we need to make sure that we're investing in the future so that the next 30 years of Cohasset can be just as bountiful as the last 30. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bestick.
I think we have to look at all the departments, the school and every other department, and we need to take a good hard look and make sure that the school department is not overspending anywhere that they shouldn't be, also that the other departments are doing what they need to do. We need to make sure everybody keeps within their budget and follows through on their budget. And we don't need, and the other thing we don't need is a surprise at the end of the fiscal year that all of a sudden one department is over budget. And there should be quarterly reports from all the departments to make sure they're within their budget. And if there is a problem with any of their budgets, we address it at that time. We don't address it at the end of the year and say, oh, we gotta do something. If you get quarterly reports from all the departments and know what they're spending, that you can control it and make sure that it's under control. I am not in favor of an override at this point in time, and I know a lot of the seniors are not in favor of an override at this time because of their taxes. And I know of a couple families that have sold because they can no longer afford to live in this town, and I don't want to see any more seniors have to move because of that.
Thank you. Our next question, Ms. Marr, we'll start with you. In the past few years, the town has been unsuccessful in passing major building projects at town meeting, even after thorough study by hard-working citizen committees. Town Hall and the police station come to mind as projects that have been sent back to the drawing board more than once. Is there some part of the process that you think could be improved so that projects that do need to be addressed can succeed?
Sure, so I'd like to just clarify, the public safety building didn't go before the town last fall, but before special town meeting, after a joint meeting between Capital and Advisory, who had many, many questions. we felt as a select board that we're not ready to bring it to prime time, meaning special town meeting. And the reason we weren't is because we had seen the town hall projects. Those are the two that come to mind. Town hall, there's been, I don't know, 2 or 3 versions starting in 2008 and then in the mid-2014s, and it kept going from 5 million to 12 to 14 million to, I think, the last iteration, excuse me, it was somewhere in the 21, 22 million, and rejected at town hall. And so when something like that gets rejected, you really have to hear what the message is. And it's that the residents of Cohasset didn't view our municipal building as being worthy of that much money. And so instead of coming back with another commission, spending more millions of dollars, because we spent multi-millions of dollars through both of those studies on design, on architecture and things like that, we said, okay, what do we need to do? We just need to replace the roof, fix the windows, get a new HVAC, get some paint, and maybe move a few walls and make it a safe and efficient, comfortable place for our people to work. So the lesson is listen to what the voters are saying and don't go back if they've said no twice. Figure out a different way.
Thank you. Mr. Ashton.
Yeah, thank you. And I like this question, it's my wheelhouse. So kind of like what Ms. Marr said, that, and what I said earlier, that we need to go into these big projects with a plan B that is a viable alternative to solve the solutions. A good example of another tactic is what Hingham did with their public safety building. It had multiple votes over multiple years throughout the stages of the project. Instead of one vote at the beginning and one vote when it's all done, you're checking its schematic design and design development. The other is leveraging expertise in town, and like I said, this is my wheelhouse, so if I'm on the select board, I'll personally take this on. And I know a lot of other professionals in the field that would love to provide their input to projects like this.
Thank you. Ms. Bestick.
I really don't know how to answer that, because there's some things I want to do if I get in, but I'm not sure we can do them. Because the fact that I am used to working, particularly in the Boy Scouts and stuff, if we needed something and somebody was able to do it, could they volunteer their stuff without having to pay for design costs? Like an architect would volunteer to do a design for a building. This is something I want to really look into, but I'm not 100% sure how that works. If we can get somebody that volunteers stuff, so we can cut the cost of some of that stuff, like design stuff and everything else, and have something much lower cost to begin with. And I think we need to look into if we can get some people to volunteer to do stuff, volunteer to do work.
Thank you. Ms. Chu.
I love this question also. So I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with Ms. Marr. In my opinion, based on many conversations in the community, it's not that people don't think the investment was worth it. People don't trust the process that has been followed. They don't trust the financials. I'm not saying that there's anything untoward about what's being presented. And just what people feel is that they don't have the detail in order to make an informed decision. And many times it has felt like what is being presented is a marketing campaign instead of an explanation about what we're doing and why we're doing those things. And so we need to tone down the way that we're aggressively pushing, and tone down when we have leadership of a particular department that can benefit from something, spearheading that project. And we need to focus on what our actual needs are, how we got to our, use professionals, many, again, like Will, like many others that I know in the community that could add value and input for free, and use their skills to come up with a solution that meets our needs, that that identifies that we're not overspending on those services, and we're not being lavish, but we're being prudent and thoughtful and providing a well-conceived and well-constructed solution.
Thank you. Mr. Watts?
Would you mind repeating the question for everybody?
Absolutely not. In the past few years, the town has been unsuccessful in passing major building projects at town meeting, even after thorough study by hardworking citizen committees. Town Hall and the police station come to mind as projects that have been sent back to the drawing board more than once. Is there some part of the process that you think could be improved so that projects that do need to be addressed can succeed?
Sure, and thank you for the question. And I would first say, thank you to the folks who have worked on these projects. It's a lot of work that goes into these things, and I think we owe everyone who works on projects that support the town, a debt of gratitude. That being said, and I'm going to sound a bit of a broken record here, the failures of perhaps getting this across the board are kind of one of two options. Either the town just doesn't want this thing, and then therefore, okay, great, we move forward. We put it to the voters, they didn't want it, we respect that, we move on. Or two, and where I more likely land on a lot of these issues, is we failed to meet enough people where they are so they felt comfortable with understanding the project the town wants to move forward. Again, there's a lot of really smart people who spend a lot of time and effort on these projects. The ones I've looked at have been great projects, and I think they failed because the communication about the project, how they work, how they're funded, and what the benefit is to the community, well, maybe not either communicated the right way or not reached sufficient numbers of ears and ears in the right way that folks can understand why we're doing it. I think that perhaps has been, kind of our biggest letdown and the thing that I would want to try to change to. Again, it's always said in politics, it's almost impossible to have a vote flipped. If you lose something on the House floor, you're never going to run it again because you're always going to lose. It's very hard to flip it. So I want to make sure that as we build projects and propose things, that we take the time necessary to get out into the community and explain the projects fully, answer the questions fully that folks may have about the projects, so that it can only go to the vote one time. We'll get the best decision we can on that project, and now we'll move forward or we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Ashton. Beyond the budget, the buildings, and respectful communication, what issues facing the town are you particularly interested in addressing during your term?
That's well, you just picked my top three things. No, I know there's a lot of other issues that I don't know as much about. There was just a forum last week about shellfishing in the harbor, so I know that's still out there. Roads and sidewalks are always a tough thing, and this tough snow season this year really took a number on the roads, so I know that our stabilization fund might be hurting next year. So those are some of the couple, other things that I think are important.
Thank you. Ms. Mark?
Could you repeat the question?
Absolutely. Beyond the budget, the buildings, and respectful communication, what issues facing the town are you particularly interested in addressing during your term?
Can I speak to communication?
You may speak to whatever you want in your 2 minutes.
Okay, so, thank you. So I think, for those of us that have been around for a long time, we used to have the Cohasset Mariner, and I used to race home on Fridays to get it. And you could read everything that happened in town, every kid who hit a home run, every child who ran a track. You could read every candidate's position on questions. There were questions every week, and it was the single source for everyone to get their information from. And it was at the same time, in the same format, and everyone was reading the same black and white. And in today's day and age, with the lack of printed paper and the onrise, the onslaught of social media, it's become much more difficult to get that exact same message out there. So I would say getting our message out clearly, concisely, consistently, in a singular format that's accessible to all is probably one of the biggest challenges that I see that we have, so that everyone is as informed as we can make them to be informed. The other thing, and I wrote this in, and I love the anchor. I think the anchor is great, and it doesn't fully replace the Mariner because it's only an electronic format, but I wrote have a set agenda, but to have office hours could be topical. We could say this week we're talking about this, or next week we're talking about that, and have a rotation of select board members do that either before a meeting or at some other point in time, so that people can just come in and chat. And if we don't have a quorum, we don't have to post, and we can just have a conversation, and we can ask questions and we can listen to each other. And I think that would go a long way in helping put forward select board and town manager goals.
Thank you. Mr. Watts?
Sure, there are two big ones for me. First, is anybody who knows me know I'm a big baseball guy, and it drives me nuts that our high school field doesn't have a fence. There should be a lot of hit home runs. But second, and more importantly, you know, as I talk to people, they'll hear me say the same thing over and over. To me, there are two major assets that Cohasset has that we need to make sure we get right. One are excellent schools, and two is the ocean. You know, there's two things that drive folks and what makes Cohasset what it is. So, you know, we know the budget, and I think it explained where I stand on the schools, but I also think we need to make sure and keep a close eye on how we're handling our harbor and the access to the ocean, as I think it is one of the two largest assets that makes Cohasset what it is. You know, if Cohasset's going to continue to grow and thrive, I think it's vital that we get that right, we keep an eye on it, we keep constant and open communications with our neighbors to ensure that access to the water, both economically and recreationally, is ensured. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bestick?
Well, I think my biggest concern is making sure that the people in the town have what they want and have an open forum to come into the select board. I agree with Ellen's thing about having different days or different times where people can come in and talk to the select board people and actually have a sit down and give it things. I know I did it all the time, and I go out everywhere. What's going on? What's going on? And it would be nice if we had some kind of format that we can get out there and have them come in and visit. That's what I would like to see.
Thank you. Ms. Chu?
Great. So a couple of things that I think we need to focus on above and beyond what's already been discussed. First is, and I think that one of the gentlemen who was a candidate for town manager really spoke well to this. We have an incredible staff, you know, here in town. Our police officers are phenomenal. Our fire staff are phenomenal. The people in town hall are amazing. I know that this is a well-used facility, so I expect that we've got great staff here as well. So we need to make sure that they're feeling supported and that they're able to manage their jobs and they're feeling appreciated by us as townspeople, so focusing on that is one. And the second thing is speaking to the communication in governments. And Ellen made the point that we don't have the Mariner anymore, which is a very valid one. But we do have ways to reach out to people above and beyond electronic communication. We could put out quarterly newsletters from the community and from the government speaking to what the priorities of the select board are, what the meetings are going to look like for the upcoming quarter, the things that we're going to be focusing on. We could address the fact that if we have office hours, that those office hours are communicated clearly so people actually show up for them. And office hours are great. It's actually something that I had suggested to some members in the school committee earlier this year, and I think, and actually to Chris Plex. And I think they did one, but they didn't communicate it out to anybody, so nobody showed up. So doing that, but also communicating out that these things exist so people can take advantage, and then just being accessible beyond those times. Because sometimes these meetings or these office hours are going to be scheduled at times that don't work for everyone. Just like the interviews with the town managers happened at 4:30 the other day. People are working. So.
Thank you. Okay, everybody take a deep breath. We have one more question in your closing statements. As a reminder, both of these will be 1 minute only. So our last question, you have a minute to answer. We will then move on to closing statements, and again, those are 1 minute. So we will start with Ms. Marr. Every candidate for select board this year has amazing qualifications. The board needs a diversity of experience and point of view. If you could choose one quality or experience, what do you think distinguishes you in some way?
My age? because I have been around Cohasset longer than most people, and I have had 10 years of municipal experience on school committee, on advisory, and I spent my children's youth volunteering for their sports group. I think what I would like people to think of me is that I'm dedicated, and in order to serve, you need to be dedicated. Sometimes that means a sacrifice. Skipping dinner tonight, well, not really a sacrifice, but I would like to say dedication. You have to be dedicated to what you're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Ashton?
For me, I'd say determination. Anybody that's talked to me or read any of my emails or anything like that has seen that, I'll stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning just researching the most banal things. So just to get an answer out of something. So I think determination.
Thank you. Ms. Chu?
My ability to think outside the box is probably my best asset. It's looking at problems that have thus far been unsolvable and trying to find creative solutions and being effective in finding creative solutions so that we can get to the end goal.
Thank you. Mr. Watts?
Yeah, I'd say it's my experience and my education. I've got an educational and professional background in town management and how government works. And secondly, in consensus building and communication. As a government relations, person, my whole world has been building consensus, driving communication, educating and advocating for issues. This is what I do, what I have my master's degree in doing in town government. So I think, from the perspective of what best can help this town and drive this town forward, it is the mix of my skill sets and my education that I think will help best suit me to serve you.
Thank you. Ms. Bestick?
I think my best thing is the fact that I can relate to people, even in my business, I relate to people. People want to call and talk to me because I can get answers for them. I answer them, and I'm always following through on the things. So I think my best thing is that I can communicate with people, and I respect people, and I want to help them, and they know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to closing statements. And again, these are in reverse order of your opening statements. So with that, you have 1 minute, and we will start with Mr. Ashton.
Thank you. So we all know that Cohasset's a special place. That's why we're here. And I believe we're well positioned for the future. Question is how we continue to move forward in a way that's thoughtful, transparent, and sustainable. I'm not running to make any sweeping changes. I'm running to help strengthen the systems we already have. Through clearer budgeting, more coordinated long-term planning, and more consistent communication with residents. Good governance is often about doing the fundamentals well, understanding the numbers, planning ahead, and keeping the community informed and involved. That's the approach I'll bring to the select board, and I'd be honored to earn your vote and the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marr?
In closing, the privilege of being elected to the select board is not for the faint of heart. It requires time, it requires effort, it requires the acknowledgement that even though you might think you know it all, you never do. And as I have also learned, it requires a thick skin, and you need to have a sense of decorum. Cohasset has so many serious challenges ahead of it, from finance to infrastructure. We need to come together, listen, ask questions, and move forward with thoughtful, respectful dialogue to serve all of the citizens of Cohasset.
Thank you. Mr. Watts?
First, once again, thank the League of Women Voters, Willcutt Commons, and everyone here for coming tonight. Again, I really appreciate the time and effort everyone puts into this town. I offer a perspective that balance. As a parent, as a coach, as a professional, I want to bring all of these to ensure that Cohasset remains a place where our children can succeed, and where every resident feels confident in our future. Again, my name is Greg Watts. I'm asking for your vote and for your support to help me help this community continue to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chu?
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to bring 1,000% of what I do to this position, just as I do to my job professionally, just as I do to being a parent. I can commit to everybody in here, everybody that's watching on TV, and everybody that talks to their friends about it later, that I am going to be somebody who will be accessible. Maybe not right when you call me, but I will be accessible. I'll be ready to engage and really hear what everyone is saying and come up with those creative solutions. And very much like Will said, we need short, mid, and long-term planning. We need strategy, we need community engagement, and I'm willing to participate and be a leader in all of that. So I ask for your vote, Jennifer Chu.
Thank you. And Ms. Bestick.
A friend of mine said, Carol, you have the time, the experience, and the knowledge, and the dedication, and the perseverance to do the job, and that they should vote for you because you are a bulldog when it comes time to get the job done. So I would like to see if I can get your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to close this forum by thanking all of the candidates for their participation in our democratic process, and the Cohasset members of the Hingham League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event, as well as the representative from Hull and Hingham who are our timekeepers this evening. Please remember these important dates. Town meeting is on Monday, May 4th at 7 o'clock at the Cohasset Middle School. May the 4th be with you. Sorry, it worked in Hull, I got to do it. The Cohasset annual town election will be held on Saturday, May 9th from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. That is when the polls will be open. The polling location is the Deer Hill School Gym. And just so you know, residents do still have a few options for voting. Early voting by mail, applications must be received by May 4th. To request an application, please call the town hall to figure out what you need to do that. In-person absentee voting. Again, available Monday, May 4th through Friday, May 8th. So you have that week during normal business hours at the town clerk's office. So just be cognizant of their hours. And then in-person, obviously, voting on May 9th. So if you will be out of town, please do an absentee ballot. If you know someone who can't drive but wants to vote, bring them to the polls with you. Ask your neighbors, hey, you got a ride? I'm going to the polls at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I'll pick you up. It's a great way, one, maybe you have new neighbors and they don't know what's going on. But just anybody who doesn't want to drive or can't drive, it's, I think it's really helpful to bring them along. Again, and I will close this, as I do every forum that I do, because this is a phrase that was actually developed by Lottie E. Scharfman, who, the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts, has a Lottie E. Scharfman Education Fund, which helps fund educational programs. So remember, folks, democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you.